My girlfriend is my sponsor. She's been keeping me for 3 years solely because I bear a threatened resemblance to the man she never forgot. But then, one day, her unforgettable love returned from abroad. He stood before me declaring that they were the real love story, and I was merely a substitute. He expected me to be heartbroken, to leave regretfully, perhaps even make a scene, forgetting my place. Instead, I quickly packed my bags and made way. Me? All right then, I'll be gone. But just as I was eagerly anticipating the chance to finally build a life for myself relying on my own hard work, my sponsor found me again. She pushed me down onto the bed, her usually charming and beautiful face now contorted, gritting her teeth. She enunciated each word. Who gave you permission to run off? Sitting in the living room, I felt awkward on the sofa. Opposite sat a man dressed in a white shirt and light blue casual jeans. He possessed a refined handsomeness, upright like a pine with an air of pride like bamboo in the snow. A hint of scholarly refinement in his features made him seem exceedingly gentle, like polished jade. In contrast, I was in simple loungewear, my hair unwashed for 2 days and rather messy. Would you like some water? I asked somewhat awkwardly. The man opposite simply shook his head slightly, raising his eyes to look at me. So, did you understand everything I just said? I instinctively shook my head, then immediately nodded. This morning, I had just woken up, hadn't brushed my teeth, washed my face, or combed my hair. I was deep in my coding work when a doorbell suddenly rang. When I opened it, I saw this gentleman who introduced himself as Lu Chun. He tactfully explained that he and Shun Ruoyin were childhood sweethearts, but he had gone abroad a few years ago due to certain events, and the only reason Shun Ruoyin and I were together was simply because I bore that threatened resemblance to him. In short, despite all his words, the gentleman conveyed only one thing. I was just his substitute. Two people who aren't in love will only end up hurting each other if they stay together, and now I'm back. He paused slightly after saying this, then looked at me again. He didn't say anything more, but it felt as though everything had been said. Finally, he offered a faint smile. We're all adults here. Some things don't need to be spelled out, do they? I thought for a moment, then nodded firmly. Yes, I understand. My earnestness seemed to catch him off guard, leaving him somewhat disconcerted. Mr. Han, do you truly understand what I mean? I looked at him slightly bewildered. Aren't you telling me all this because you want me to leave? I understand now. Don't worry, I'll go. With that, I stood up abruptly and ran a hand through my messy hair. Sorry for the poor hospitality today. Actually, I understood his surprise. In everyone's eyes, I was just a kept man supported by Shun Ruoyin. Any affection shown to me was solely due to the fact that my face bore a threatened resemblance to his. For these 3 years, Shun Ruoyin and I had a mutually beneficial arrangement. She needed the comfort my face provided, and I needed her funds to support my work on new coding algorithms. Despite any moments of tenderness between us, I never forgot our respective positions. His mouth fell slightly open in astonishment. Then he pressed his lips together, frowning as he looked at me. It's all right. I have things to attend to as well, so I'll be leaving. I politely saw him to the door, but froze in astonishment the moment I opened it. Standing right there was my current girlfriend and sponsor, Shun Ruoyin. Shun Ruoyin was still dressed in her white business suit, looking as if she had just come from the office. Her gaze darted between Lu Chun and me, her brow slightly furrowed. What are you doing here? Huh? Why am I here? That question threw me off completely. Subconsciously, I realized the question was directed at me. After all, the tone wasn't exactly pleasant. It couldn't possibly be aimed at the elegant gentleman currently present, could it? I couldn't help but scratch my head. I'm just a coder who types on a keyboard. I don't really need to go to an office. I just woke up this morning. Where else would I be but here? Seeing Shun Ruoyin's frowning brow, I instantly understood. Oh, okay, just give me 5 minutes. As I spoke, I jogged directly back to my bedroom. While changing clothes, I lightly slapped myself across the face. So thoughtless. This apartment was provided by my patroness in the first place. Once, when Shun Ruoyin got drunk outside, I dutifully brought her back here. I heard her say once that Lu Chun used to live in this apartment. Thinking about it that way, letting me stay here was probably just to make my cosplay more complete, right? The white moonlight is back. Of course I have to move out. What are you still standing around for? Go. I changed clothes quickly but couldn't help sighing inwardly. As a kept man, I'm still not competent enough, failing to recognize my patroness's needs immediately, only understanding after she asked. Damn it. 3 minutes later, I was fully dressed. I hastily ruffled my hair, grabbed my laptop, and walked to the door. I nodded politely at the two of them. You two talk. I'll be leaving now. Without waiting for their reply, I turned and left. As I entered the elevator, I glanced back and saw Shen Ruoyan's slightly stunned expression. I gave her a slightly guilty smile. Sorry about that. I couldn't leave immediately, but it's okay. The whole place is yours now. Enjoy the space. Go for it, patroness. After going downstairs, I ruffled my still somewhat messy hair. I didn't go far, just found a cafe outside the residential complex, randomly ordered a coffee, found a seat, and started typing on my keyboard. My coding had reached a crucial point. Once past this small hurdle, it would be smooth sailing again. After finishing this project, I should be one step closer to success. My fingers clattered away on the keyboard, completely oblivious to the people and changes around me. Just as I was diligently typing away, a shadow fell over me. Along with it came Shen Ruoyan's cool and indifferent voice. Leaving, but you couldn't even go further away? I instinctively looked up and saw Shen Ruoyan standing about 3 steps away from me. I glanced around again, but didn't see that gentleman. What are you doing here? I asked, somewhat surprised. Shen Ruoyan raised an eyebrow slightly. Can I come here? Her words instantly brought me back to my senses, and I quickly shook my head. No, of course you can. I lowered my gaze and said nothing, but inwardly I felt a pang of regret. As a kept man, how dare I question my patroness's movements? The patroness goes wherever she wants. What business is it of yours? I've really been too lax lately, even forgetting the kept man's code. However, my thoughts turned to Mr. Liu from earlier today. Now that gentleman is back, my career as a kept man should be ending soon, right? Just as my thoughts were drifting, I heard Shen Ruoyan's cool voice again. Come with me. Go, where are we going? I was a bit stunned, but remembering the kept man code I'd summed up for myself before, I silently followed without saying anything more. Kept man code rule number whatever. The patroness says goes. Provide impeccable emotional value to the patroness. I neatly gathered my things and followed Shen Ruoyan to the luxury car. Before getting in, I hesitated. That gentleman wasn't with Shen Ruoyan. Maybe he was waiting in the car? Should I sit in the back or the passenger seat? Just as I was hesitating, Shen Ruoyan opened the car door directly and got in. I took the opportunity to see clearly that the car was empty inside. I don't know why, but I suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. Otherwise, clashing with my patron's white moonlight, wouldn't that be asking for trouble? I obediently sat in the passenger seat, and Shen Ruoyan started the car directly. Seeing we weren't taking the road back, I didn't ask any questions. After all, whatever the patron does, she has her reasons. A kept man shouldn't ask too many questions. Don't you have anything to say? After a long silence, Shen Ruoyan suddenly asked me this. I fell silent for a moment. It felt like being in university, suddenly called on by the teacher. My patron asking me this now, was she trying to gauge my attitude? I pondered for a moment, then spoke with extra firmness. You don't need to say it. I understand everything. I turned my head to look at her. Her lips were slightly pursed. His return this time is very important to me. There are some things I hope you can understand. She paused briefly here, then added softly. But don't worry, I know you feel aggrieved, and I'll compensate you after this is over. She freed one hand and gently patted my thigh. Instantly, I felt incredibly moved. Stop, my patron is really too good. Her white moonlight is back, she needs me to leave, and she's even thinking of giving me severance pay. Over these past few years, I've already received things other kept men could never get. Making way for the white moonlight. Isn't that perfectly natural? Why does my patron see it as me being aggrieved? But whatever the patron says goes. I lower my head very obediently. I trust you. Immediately, I saw a radiant smile bloom on Shen Ruoyan's beautiful face. Neither of us spoke much on the way. Shen Ruoyan took me to a styling studio and had someone give me a proper makeover. I transformed from the scruffy look I had this morning into a clean-cut, handsome, elite image. Looking at myself in a suit in the mirror, I couldn't help feeling a bit vain. I really am handsome. Accompany me to a reception. Shen Ruoyan didn't say anything, just led me back into the luxury car. We arrived at the most famous five-star hotel in our area. As we got into the elevator, Shin Ruoyin glanced at me and then chuckled softly. We might run into some acquaintances inside shortly. If you don't want to talk, you don't have to. Acquaintances? I was a bit confused. I wasn't deeply involved in the Ruoyin circle, so I didn't know many people. But since she had said so, I just nodded obediently. I followed Shin Ruoyin to the door of the private room. The moment she pushed it open, I saw the person sitting in the seat of honor inside and couldn't help but freeze. Why is it him? The private room was buzzing with voices, filled with exquisitely dressed elite men and women. Lu Chun was sitting in the seat next to the head one, a faint smile on his face. They were chatting and laughing in perfect harmony, not even noticing us entering the room. Lu Chun, your return this time is quite the coincidence. Ruoyan's birthday is in half a month. Are you two going to make things official then? Yeah, you two grew up together. It's just that before. The speaker was nudged by the person beside him halfway through the sentence. His expression turned a bit awkward, but he immediately continued speaking with a smile. Well, it's fine. I figured based on your feelings for each other, you two would settle down sooner or later. Lu Chun smiled. Ruoyan has a boyfriend now. When he said that, the person next to him burst out laughing, as if they'd heard a joke. Don't be ridiculous. He's not her boyfriend, just some pretty boy she's keeping. Someone else nearby echoed with a laugh. Yeah, what's there to fear from a pretty boy? Lu Chun, you're the white moonlight in Shun Ruoyan's heart. The people nearby were all snickering. I think if you just beckon, that pretty boy will scram immediately. Just then, a few female CEOs chuckled lightly. But you have to admit that pretty boy is quite good looking. If you get tired of playing with him, I might consider taking him over for a while, just for fun. Hearing this from nearby, I was baffled. At the same time, I felt somewhat flattered. Since when did I become so sought after? This wasn't quite how I imagined things. Is that so? Then when do you plan to take him over? Just as I was still feeling baffled, Shin Ruoyin beside me spoke calmly. Everyone couldn't help but turn their heads to see Shin Ruoyin and me standing at the entrance. I clearly sensed the awkward expressions spreading across their faces. Oh, you're here. Why didn't you say anything when you arrived? Standing behind us like that gave us a start. One person laughed heartily, trying to smooth things over. Another person just looked at me without saying much. Lu Chun, however, stood up from his seat. Come, sit over here. I silently glanced over. There was only one empty seat next to him. Just as I was about to find a random empty seat nearby, Shin Ruoyin took my hand and walked over without another word. The person in that spot very obediently stood up and left. Sitting at the head of the table, Shin Ruoyin looked again at the person who had spoken earlier. You still haven't answered. When do you plan to take him over? I keenly sensed that Shin Ruoyan's mood wasn't quite right. I silently lowered my head. Kept man rule no. If the sponsor is angry, you must be obedient. Absolutely do not join the commotion. Haha, Ruoyin, weren't we all just joking? Why are you being so serious? Yeah. Everyone knows you treat this kid like the apple of your eye. How could we possibly do that? Everyone laughed heartily. Shin Ruoyin then turned back and glanced at me. Sensing her gaze, I quickly raised my face and put on a bright smile. Outside, one must always save face for the sponsor. This rather handsome face is about my only asset, and Shin Ruoyin did say she most likes seeing my sunny, bright smile. She's in a bad mood now. Maybe doing this will make her feel a bit better. After all, making the sponsor happy is the duty of a kept man like me. However, there was some apprehension beneath the smile. After all, the angle wasn't great. I didn't show the standard 8 teeth, but maybe it was just my imagination. I felt like Shin Ruoyan's expression softened after seeing my smiling face. There was even some guilt. Guilt? But immediately after, I didn't have much time to observe her eyes. The people at the table started laughing and glossing things over again, and they were all talking about their company matters. I couldn't get a word in about any of that, so I could only sit obediently to the side and eat. Kept man rule number 4. Know your place, be invisible, don't cause trouble for the sponsor. I mastered this long ago. From attending these kinds of gatherings, they talk their business, I eat my food. Being too keen on the food just proves you're simple-minded. After all, the banquet for these people was quite luxurious. Lobster, abalone, and the like were nothing special. There were many delicacies you couldn't normally see. I silently turned the lazy Susan, bringing a plate of shrimp directly in front of me, and started peeling the shrimp. A few days ago, I watched a live stream where a streamer peeled a bunch of shrimp, skewered them onto chopsticks, and made shrimp kebabs. Hee hee, I wanted to try that for ages. When I had painstakingly peeled a small bowlful, I unexpectedly found there was no dipping sauce. I silently shifted the bowl slightly to the side. Just as I was about to reach for the dipping sauce, I heard laughter nearby. Ruoyan, Mr. Han is so considerate of you, Lu Chen said, his tone laced with laughter, his eyes landing on the small bowl of shrimp I had set aside. I instinctively wanted to deny it, but then I saw Shen Ruoyan's expression turn exceptionally gentle. Although I seem to recall you don't like shrimp. Having been by Shen Ruoyan's side for so many years, I had at least that much insight. Shen Ruoyan didn't dislike eating shrimp, she just disliked peeling them. To be precise, she disliked anything that required the effort of peeling or deboning. I stared somewhat longingly at that small bowl of shrimp, already thinking, since he'd said that, Shen Ruoyan surely wouldn't contradict him. She would definitely refuse them. Perfect. This whole little bowl of shrimp would be mine. My oversight. As I tidied up slightly, I prepared to move the small bowl of shrimp toward myself. But the next second, fingers as slender as spring onion chives covered my hand. She slowly took the small bowl of shrimp and placed it in front of herself. I don't dislike eating shrimp, I just dislike peeling them. Hanyu has been with me for so many years, surely he knows this much. The group who had been deep in discussion suddenly fell silent. All eyes involuntarily turned to me, but after all these years by Shen Ruoyan's side, I had long since developed a thick skin. I just silently pushed the dipping sauce towards Shen Ruoyan. Sure enough, I saw Shen Ruoyan's gratified expression. I offered an obedient smile. Inside, however, I was wailing constantly. Woo-woo, my shrimp. The shrimp I had worked so hard to peel. I watched Shen Ruoyan pleadingly, hoping she wouldn't eat too quickly and might leave me some. After all, nearly the entire plate of shrimp was in that bowl. But Shen Ruoyan slowly, deliberately ate every single one. Then she looked at me, smiled gently, and said, "As long as it's something you prepared, I won't waste it." My heart was bleeding, but I could only nod obediently. As long as you like it. I silently lowered my head and started eating something else, completely oblivious to Lu Chen's somewhat inscrutable gaze. I had no time to worry about anything else. My heart was still silently mourning my shrimp. Soon, they resumed their discussion. I was already used to fading into the background at times like this. Nothing else was required of me, except I was constantly observing Shen Ruoyan. When she needed a napkin, I'd provide one immediately. When she wanted a drink of water, I could fetch it promptly. If her gaze lingered on anything for more than a couple of seconds, I could prepare it immediately. Gradually, I sensed a change in Lu Chen's gaze. Lu Chen glanced at me, then looked at Shen Ruoyan beside me, and said with a chuckle, "Ruoyan, I didn't realize your little boyfriend was so attentive." Hearing this, alarm bells instantly went off in my head. It's over. An unforgettable love the sponsor hasn't forgotten for so many years must surely be her cherished favorite. The contract between Shen Ruoyan and me was set to expire in just 1 month anyway. I figured now that her unforgettable love is back, there's no way the sponsor would renew the contract with me. But a sentence like that meant the unforgettable love was jealous. It's over. Maybe the sponsor will terminate the contract early? Then how will I get next month's salary? My heart bled at the thought of losing my yuan monthly salary. Although I've always wanted to be self-reliant and support myself by programming, who would refuse easy money? Seeing Shen Ruoyan about to speak, I quickly jumped in to salvage the situation. No, Mr. Lu. You've misunderstood. I said with utmost sincerity. It's not what you think. Between Ms. Shun and me. I spoke with sincere eyes and a genuine tone. Just 1 more month. 1 more month and I can leave, Mr. Lu. Don't be hasty, just wait a little. Of course, if the sponsor insisted on ending the contract early and offered some compensation, I could accept that too, I thought gleefully. Is that so? Lu Chen looked at me with a slight smile, then turned to Shen Ruoyan beside him. Then what is it like? I expected Shen Ruoyan to lay everything out straightforwardly, but unexpectedly, she just pressed her lips together slightly, then pulled my hand and stood up. Let's discuss work matters at the company tomorrow. I have something else. I'm leaving now. After saying that, she pulled me straight out the door without any hesitation. I was completely stunned. What was going on? Why did she just up and leave like that? I could faintly hear murmured discussions behind us, but Shinruo Yin walked faster and faster, as if someone was chasing her relentlessly. Only when we reached the underground parking lot, and I saw Shinruo Yin sitting in the driver's seat with a stern face, did I cautiously ask, "What's wrong?" I was a bit lost. Did I do something wrong just now? Why was she so angry? However, she simply started the car and drove directly back to the apartment where I had been living. Watching her coldly unlock the door and sit on the sofa, I felt a little awkward. This must be the place Mr. Liu lived before, right? I should probably leave now. With such an unhappy expression, she probably wants to have a showdown with me. I was still guessing inwardly, but for some reason, I suddenly felt a pang of sadness. It felt as if a piece of my heart had been carved out, leaving an emptiness, like I'd lost something incredibly important. It must just be the heartache over losing you on a month from now on, right? Just as I was deliberating on how to speak, I heard Shinruo Yan's voice, as clear and cool as a mountain spring. "What did you mean just now?" Hearing this, I froze for a moment and looked cautiously at Shinruo Yan. I didn't mean anything. I felt uneasy. Why would she suddenly say that now? Was it really because I said the wrong thing earlier? Then what did you mean by what you said at the dinner party? After some consideration, I finally said, "I was just thinking, isn't our arrangement ending in a month anyway? And now that Mr. Liu is back, it really isn't appropriate for me to keep living here." I spoke while watching her cautiously. Inwardly, I was already silently calculating the best time to move out. But then I saw Shinruo Yin stand up. Shinruo Yin was meters tall. Though 10 centimeters shorter than me, her presence was exceptionally striking. It made me involuntarily lower my head. But the next second, I felt her grip my chin. Before I could even speak, I was silenced by soft lips pressing against mine, swallowing back all the words I wanted to say. She almost forcefully pushed me down onto the sofa, demanding more from me, just like before. Slowly, I became immersed in it too. After all, our contractual relationship hadn't ended yet. As long as it lasted, I had to play my part, see my duty through to the end. Couldn't be unworthy of that, a month. After everything was over, I held Shinruo Yin very gently as we lay in bed. I had already carefully cleaned up all traces beforehand. Her hair spread across the pillow like seaweed. Her voice, husky from passion, still sounded indifferent as she spoke. "Be good, don't overthink." I paused for a moment, then nodded with a smile. I know. As if I would overthink. Kept man survival guide rule no. Absolutely do not mistake the patron's momentary tenderness for a reason to covet what is not yours. After that day, Shinruo Yin didn't come over for several days. I kept thinking about finding an opportunity to move out, but whenever I tried calling Shinruo Yin, I could never reach her. Several days passed in a row, and I finally couldn't stand it anymore. After all, no matter how busy Ruo Yin was before, she would still come over every few days. Basically, she'd come once every 2 days, but now a whole week had passed. I carefully prepared the soup she loves, planning to take it to her at the company. After all, for an excellent and qualified kept man, being presentable in public and capable in the kitchen is standard. When I entered the company's ground floor lobby, I felt the receptionist's gaze on me was a bit strange. This struck me as odd. It wasn't like I hadn't been here before. These receptionists all knew me. But why was her look so strange today? As if she were looking at someone truly pitiful. Pitiful? My hand paused slightly as I went to press the elevator button. I didn't know why, but I had a strange feeling in my gut. But I suppressed all my emotions and went up to the CEO's exclusive floor. The desks outside belonged to Shinruo Yan's secretaries. When one secretary saw me arrive, she was clearly flustered. She quickly walked up and said, "The CEO is busy right now and has given instructions that no one is to go in." I hesitated slightly but still nodded. "Then I'll wait in the nearby empty room." It wasn't the first time I'd encountered this situation. When Shinruo Yin got busy, it was normal for her to make me wait for several hours. It's just that sitting on the sofa in the reception room, I looked at the thermal container on the coffee table and couldn't help rubbing my nose. Soup that took 3 hours to simmer. Hopefully it wouldn't get cold. I played on my phone in the reception room out of boredom until my neck started to ache. Only then did I lift my head and look around. Checking the time, I realized I had actually been waiting for 2 hours. I looked again at the thermal container in front of me. I started silently calculating the possibility of taking it out later to heat it up slightly in a microwave. Just then, I heard some noise outside. I couldn't help but go out and take a look, only to find Lu Chun and Shen Ruoyin walking out of the office, talking and laughing. Shen Ruoyin was holding a document. She said something I couldn't hear, and a smile on Lu Chen's face grew even gentler. Lu Chen suddenly reached out to tuck a stray strand of hair behind Shen Ruoyin's ear, and a smile on her face grew even brighter. Watching from the doorway, I suddenly felt a little dazed. It seemed like Shen Ruoyin had never smiled so happily when she was with me. She always had a cool, distant demeanor. Even when I occasionally did things that pleased her, she would only offer a faint smile, followed by some sort of reward. I had always thought that was just her temperament, so it never occurred to me that it was simply because the person was different, and therefore her reaction was different too. At this very moment, I suddenly found it hard to pinpoint the emotions swirling inside me. Then, I silently cursed myself. Hanyu, what on earth are you doing? Don't you forget you're just a kept man right now. If your sponsor is willing to show you some kindness, that's your privilege. If she really doesn't want to be kind, you can only grit your teeth and bear it, and then reflect on whether you did something wrong somewhere that angered your sponsor. Yes, just as I was inwardly wondering if I had done something wrong recently, Lu Chen spotted me and spoke up, somewhat surprised. Mr. Han, what are you doing here? Lu Chen's tone held surprise, and then he seemed to say apologetically, have you been waiting long? Ruoyin and I were just discussing some things and lost track of time. I'm truly sorry. Look at what he said. Just discussing things, lost track of time. If I were to poignantly say a few things right now, it would surely be interpreted differently by them, wouldn't it? I quickly smiled and waved my hands dismissively. It's fine, I just got here. I gave a restrained smile, then after a moment's thought, spoke again directly. Well, if you two still have things to discuss, please go ahead, I won't disturb you. I said this while turning and walking away. As I walked toward the elevator, I could distinctly feel 2 intense gazes fixed on my back. Those gazes felt like needles on my back. The moment the elevator doors opened, I practically fled inside. Only when the doors were about to close did I finally breathe a small sigh of relief. Luckily, I hadn't barged into the office earlier, otherwise the trouble I would have caused for my sponsor would have been bad. After going downstairs, I hesitated for a moment, not heading straight home immediately. Instead, I quietly began calculating what I should plan to buy after I left. I took out my phone and started searching for relevant information. I had indeed saved a considerable amount of money over the years. After all, I had practically no living expenses, and my sponsor also funded my programming. In these 3 years, I had barely touched my monthly allowance. A month, adding up to over $1 million over 3 years. Even in a first-tier city, that's enough to buy an apartment and a car. I started contemplating which city would be best to move to. When I settled on a coastal city, I let out a long breath. I didn't have the chance before, but in another 3 weeks, I could finally leave this place for good. There would probably be a lot to deal with then, right? A sense of uncertainty crept into my heart, but ultimately, I didn't dwell on it. After all, my sponsor's white moonlight had returned, so she certainly wouldn't care about me now. I originally thought that after that incident, Shen Ruoyin would be upset and would definitely come looking for me, but unexpectedly 2 weeks passed in silence. I kept quietly packing my things and mailing them off. Meanwhile, I had also taken the time to go back to the previous city and buy a square-meter large flat. It's a seaside city, sunny with distinct seasons. The people here are very forthright, and I took a liking to this place almost immediately. However, I didn't leave right away, planning to wait until after the 3 weeks were up. I had originally thought Shen Ruoyin would at least come back once during these 3 weeks, but unexpectedly Shen Ruoyin never returned. Although the money kept being deposited into my account as usual, on the last day, I packed everything up. Looking at the small apartment where I had lived for 3 years, I felt a bit melancholic. From now on, the life of a freeloader, just eating and waiting to die, was completely over. I had to rely on myself to handle everything. Thinking about the programming I had completely finished gave me a sense of relief. At the same time, I placed the key on the shoe cabinet and firmly closed the door. As I sat on the plane leaving the city, I felt a kind of emptiness inside. Having lived in that place for so long, I was finally leaving. This feeling was completely different from before. However, life after leaving wasn't as bad as I might have thought. I slept until I woke up naturally each day, and the few stocks I bought were steadily rising. In my spare time, I could also continue working on my programming. Now things didn't need to be like before. I didn't need to worry about trivial matters anymore, only whether I myself was willing and happy. These past few mornings, I just casually ordered takeout. The large seafood buns here really suit my taste. I ordered a steamer basket of buns and 2 cups of soy milk. Just as I was leisurely brushing my teeth, I suddenly heard the doorbell ring. I found it a bit strange. How could the delivery be so fast this morning? Still brushing my teeth, I went straight to open the door, but the moment I opened it, my eyes widened. Standing at the door was someone I thought I would never see again in my life. Director Shun. My tone was astonished, and my mouth was still full of foam. I knew I must look utterly ridiculous, but at that moment, I couldn't care less. Shen Ruoyan, her face cold, pushed me aside and walked straight in. Seeing the room I had tidied up so neatly, she sneered. Quite comfortable, aren't you? Coming straight over here on your own? Who told you to come? For a moment, I was completely stunned. Who told me to come? I came by myself. What's wrong with that? I was about to speak, but the foam in my mouth made it awkward. I quickly went to the nearby bathroom, spat out the foam, rinsed my face, and only then came out, feeling rather awkward. I figured the term was up, so I left on my own. I spoke cautiously. Shen Ruoyan seemed to laugh out of exasperation, then suddenly rushed towards me, pinning me against the wall. She practically forced the words out through clenched teeth, syllable by syllable. Who gave you permission to leave? Hearing that, I suddenly felt wronged. Mr. Liu is back. Was I supposed to stay and humiliate myself? Shen Ruoyan paused for a moment, then spoke in a slightly strange tone. You left because of him? I nodded obediently, and then explained everything that had happened recently. You and he are childhood sweethearts. You only kept me before because I somewhat resembled him. Now that he's back, naturally I had to leave, I said, feeling aggrieved. But Shen Ruoyan fell silent, then slapped me lightly, looking both annoyed and amused. What nonsense are you talking? From Shen Ruoyan's account, I finally understood that Lu Qin's interactions with her after his return were only because she valued his technical skills. There was some related business cooperation between their families, which explained their frequent dealings. As for everything before, I had completely misunderstood. I had never been a substitute. For some reason, hearing this made a sweet feeling bubble up inside me. So it turned out I had misunderstood everything. Even that time I saw them interacting in the office, it was purely because of work-related matters. The person who had misspoke at the party earlier had suffered her fierce retaliation. Within just 1 month, their family had declared complete bankruptcy. And the reason she didn't have time to see me during the period before I left was because she was handling company affairs. It was also to resolve everything completely, so there would be no lingering worries. So, without my knowing, she had done so much for me. For a moment, I looked at her, deeply moved, only to see her expression a mixture of exasperation and amusement. Somehow feeling a bit shy, I looked at her hesitantly. So, are we renewing our contract? Shen Ruoyan raised an eyebrow slightly and gave a commanding smile. She pressed a firm kiss onto my lips. Renew it for a lifetime. By the time she and I returned to Jiangcheng, everyone knew I was Shen Ruoyan's official boyfriend. I had expected the male supporting character to show up again, but surprisingly, I never saw him from beginning to end. I was nestled on the sofa, preparing the wedding invitations, while she sat nearby handling business on her laptop. Are the invitations finalized and correct? Does Mr. Liu need one? I clearly saw her raise an eyebrow slightly, then put down her laptop, come over to me, and lift my chin. What? Aren't you afraid he'll show up again? My gaze drifted. Well, you've known each other for so many years. Wouldn't he come to your wedding? She chuckled softly, her thumb gently caressing my chin, making my heart pound. Wanna know? I nodded instinctively. Her eyes grew deeper. Kiss me. If I'm in a good mood, I'll tell you. I gave her a quick kiss on impulse, but immediately found myself pushed down onto the sofa. The temperature in the room started to rise, and my mind went blank to everything else. Her lips curved slightly, seemingly triumphant. I was completely immersed in the ocean of desire. As for anything else, forget it, to hell with it. Right now, the sun was shining, and the person I loved was right beside me. That was enough.